Hi everybody. Recently it was time for me to treat myself to some new brushes. So I got those broken toe brushes and one of those funky paintbrush holders. Now I've got the brushes, I need something to paint. So I thought I'd have a go at painting this little guy. The Mini was primed with a GW Rattlecam black primer, and the first layer is going to be GW's Waaagh Flesh. Now I'm applying this quite carefully here because this was a brand new broken toe brush which I've not used before, so I was just trying to get a feel for it, and also I wanted to leave some of the black in the recesses as this will get covered up with later glazes, but it'll give it some nice dark shadows and strong definition. So it took a couple of layers to get the Waaagh Flesh to the level I was looking for. With that base coat now done, I'm taking some of the Waaagh Flesh and some water and just thinning that down to a glaze, and I'm just going to apply that over the whole of the skin now and blend those darker areas in with the base flesh tone, so those black areas will turn into a very dark green. So it's just a case of applying this over the whole of the skin, going from the dark recesses, the areas where the primer is still in the shadow areas, and dragging the paint into the highlight areas. When that's done, we're now going to take a mix of the Waaagh Flesh and Vallejo's Golden Olive, and we're just going to apply this as a layer on the skin. So we're just applying this very carefully, using the very tip of the brush, especially on the face where there's so much small detail, and this brush was very good for this. I was quite impressed with just how sharp the point is on this broken toe brush. I believe this is the size 1 that I was using, and just using that tip to just layer that on and keep those dark areas. Now just taking the mix we'd already got and some water, we just thin that down to a glaze, and we're just going to use that to smooth the transitions between the base coat and that highlight layer. So it's just a case of pulling the glaze over those areas we've just highlighted. So you want to pull from the shadow to the highlight, because where your brush leaves the model, that's where most of the pigment from the glaze will be deposited. So we want to glaze from dark into light. We're just going to work our way around each of the sections, just blending out those transitions. Okay, next is a layer of Vallejo golden olive. So we're just going to apply this to all the areas where we've already highlighted, but just in a slightly smaller area. And we're just going to go around being very careful using the tip of the brush, pick out all those details so that we don't obscure the previous layers, and just work our way around it, very carefully, picking out those details. Now we're going to make a glaze of the Vallejo golden olive, and we're going to use that to smooth out these transitions. Now, key to applying a good glaze is to remove almost all of the paint from the bristles. You can see here how I removed the paint on the paper towel, but then came back to remove some more because I didn't feel I'd done enough. When you apply a glaze, it should be a really thin layer. There should be no pooling of liquid at all when applying a glaze. You apply a thin layer, it'll dry in a few seconds, and then you can just apply another one. And keep doing that, and you'll smooth out those transitions. Okay, we're going to push the contrast a bit further now on the skin by mixing in some Vallejo German yellow, and just applying this as a very small highlight, the highest points and where we want the most contrast. Now you can see here, when working on the face especially, the detail is so small, you really need to use the very tip of the brush. So you need to make sure you've got a good brush with a good point to really pick out those details and not obscure the previous layers. Okay, pushing the contrast a bit further now, we're going to just use some pure Vallejo German yellow. And again, just using the very tip of the brush, I'm just going to apply this in an even smaller area and just push that contrast a bit higher. Now taking a glaze of the Vallejo German yellow, we're just going to smooth out those transitions for those final highlights. Now to paint the nose and the ears, I've taken some Vallejo Golden Olive and some Vallejo Rose Brown and mixed those together to give me a sort of greeny flesh tone. We're heading towards pink. I'm just going to use this as a base coat to layer onto those parts that I'm going to then glaze red. So you need to just take your time, build this up slowly. This needs to be quite smooth because it is going to be very visible. You can't avoid the nose on a grot, and the glaze is only going to tint it, so this layer is going to be still visible. So I didn't mix up a glaze for this, but when I had some of the layer on the brush and when I rinsed the brush, that thinned it out in the bristles enough to just blend those transitions. Now I used a mix of Khorne Red and Mephiston Red here because my Khorne Red came out purple rather than red, So just any red will really do. I wanted a bit of purple in the red, and then just thin that down to a glaze, and then again going from dark to light. We're just going to apply this over the whole nose, the inside of the ears, and you can also use this for things like fingertips and elbows, just to add a little bit more interest if you want. And with that, the green skin is done. Well, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you find the video of some use with painting your green skins. If you did, please remember to like, comment and subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys.